Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Sarah Wong. Our top stories tonight. More than 200 air guns are seized, with police suspecting they could have been used to disrupt the Legislative Council elections. Carrie Lam vows to do everything to stop Omicron as the city records its 8th case of the COVID variant. And traffic chaos after a car catches fire in the Tate Cairn tunnel. Police have smashed what they branded a violent criminal organization, arresting 10 people and seizing hundreds of weapons. Officers believe the group may have been planning to target Sunday's Legislative Council elections. Wong has the latest.
About 200 air guns, almost 7,000 lead pellets, a homemade smoke grenade launcher, as well as knives and axes were seized in Operation Cosmospan, a series of raids that began on Sunday and continued until yesterday. A large number of the air guns were modified illegally, making them more powerful. Some of them, according to one officer, could cause damage comparable to real guns. Police also seized equipment such as bulletproof shields, gas masks, and walkie-talkies. 10 people, 9 men and a woman, were arrested.
We have intelligence and some information showing that the arrested people, some of them had actively participated in the riot incident in the past 2 years. We will not exclude any possibility, and especially we will continue our investigation to pursue whether the reason of the possession of these high-power weapons, including for the purpose of making damage to our society and deterring our making disturbance to our coming elections.
Last month, Police Commissioner Raymond Siu said over 10,000 officers will be deployed to ensure safety on polling day. Wong, HKIBC.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam has pledged to do everything to keep out the Omicron COVID variant, including giving booster doses to more people. This came as Hong Kong and mainland officials met again to discuss resuming quarantine-free cross-border travel. Raymond Yang with the details.
There is still no timetable for when Hong Kong residents can go to the mainland without the need to quarantine. But Chief Executive Carrie Lam revealed that her cabinet officials headed north today to meet their mainland counterparts.
Today, the CS, the Chief Secretary for Administration, is leading a Hong Kong government delegation to meet with Guangdong officials and other relevant officials in Shenzhen to take forward the preparatory work.
Speaking this morning before the city's 8th Omicron case was detected today, Lam praised health authorities for keeping Hong Kong largely COVID-free for months, but at the expense of the business sector and expatriates.
So far, I would say that we are successful. All the 7 confirmed cases of Omicron were detected during the test and hold at the Hong Kong International Airport or during the mandatory quarantine period. At this moment, I do not see the change to what we are doing in terms of resumption of normal travel into the mainland as a result of Omicron. But because this variant and the whole situation could be changing very rapidly, so I could provide no absolute guarantee.
Response has been warm for a digital certification system which travelers need to cross the border. As of noon today, 447,000 people signed up for the Hong Kong Health Code. More than 1/3, or 153,000, have activated their accounts, meaning they are fully ready for quarantine-free travel. Lam also confirmed that booster vaccines could become available to more age groups from next month, pending discussions with experts. Raymond Yang, HKIBC.
Hong Kong's Omicron tally has risen to 8 with yet another imported case. The patient is a 50-year-old man who arrived in Hong Kong last Friday on Qatar Airways. He had been to Tanzania, South Africa, Kenya, and Qatar before setting foot in the SAR. The man tested positive while in quarantine at Penny's Bay, where arrivals from high-risk countries have to spend their first week after landing. The Center for Health Protection says the heavily mutated variant has not made its way into the community. There were 5 new COVID cases today, all imported. Chief Executive Carrie Lam says free public transport on the day of the Legislative Council elections is a gesture to remind people to vote. She was responding to a question that many voters do not need transport on Sunday because most polling booths are within walking distance. More from Wong.
With Election Day just around the corner, Chief Executive Carrie Lam again called on people to come out and vote. She also thanked public transport operators for offering free trips on Sunday.
Many of the 600 plus polling stations are designed to be very close to the voters. So they may not need to take a bus or a mass transit railway to go to vote. So this is more a gesture of collective responsibility. So remind people that 19th December is a crucial day. You welcome you to come out. You can take the bus, you can go elsewhere, but also go to a polling station to cast your vote.
The chairman of the Electoral Affairs Commission, Barnabas Fung, meanwhile, is putting the finishing touches for the first polls in the city under a revamped system, which will ensure that patriots rule Hong Kong. He said changes have been made to avoid what he called hiccups in September's election committee polls, which took 14 hours for results to be announced.
In the past, there were quite elaborate rules as to counting, as to what sort of documents, what sort of ballot accounts, reconciliations the staff have to do before the count is to start. That was to ensure that everyone follows the same rules. But I think sometimes flexibility is what is called for.
Fung also said the 3 border polling stations for Hong Kongers living on the mainland will be live streamed throughout the day. Wong, HKIBC.
The chief executive has played down the role of the Education Bureau after a video clip in its official teaching kit for the Nanjing Massacre caused distress among young primary school pupils.
While learning history is of paramount importance, how to learn is something that we would defer to the education sector, because we have very well-trained teachers. We have well-run schools with their own committee and so on. So it is not for the education officials to dictate or to, as you have put it, to provide very detailed guidelines on what to show, when to show, and so on. But I believe Education Bureau has not mandated that all teaching on this Nanjing Massacre has to show that video. So it is a matter of professional judgment by the teachers.
There was chaos during this evening's rush hour traffic after a car burst into flames inside the Tate King Tunnel at around 6 p.m. Passengers on several buses had to get off and leave the tunnel on foot. The tunnel had to be sealed off as firefighters rushed to the scene. The flames were quickly put out and there were no reported injuries, but it caused a huge traffic jam on lanes in both directions. Vehicles began moving normally again after 7 p.m. A coroner's jury has recommended that doctors brief nurses thoroughly before they undertake important medical procedures. The suggestion came after the jurors returned a verdict of death by misadventure in the case of an elderly man whose catheter was not removed correctly. Isaac Lee explains.
The son and daughter-in-law of KT stepped out of West Kowloon Magistracy, saying the finding of death by misadventure was important in achieving justice. Retired taxi driver K was 83 years old when he went to Queen Mary Hospital on May 19, 2016 for a post-surgery check-up. That night, he tripped in the ward and underwent hip joint surgery 2 days later. On May 25th, the doctor found there weren't enough red blood cells in his body. K was transferred to the intensive care unit, and a catheter for supplying blood was inserted into his body the following day. When his condition stabilized on May 27th, Nurse Ho removed the catheter. But Ho did not follow the compulsory procedure, which requires the patients to lie down. As a result, K suffered an air embolism, where the veins are blocked by gas. He died 3 days later. Forensic pathologist Ma Sun-nap said the direct cause of death was acute myocardial infarction, and air embolism had led to it. The 5-member jury agreed and unanimously ruled that K died due to misadventure. The relatives of the patients appeared calm when the verdict was delivered. They listened as the jurors made several suggestions. Doctors should brief nurses before carrying out important procedures, the jurors said, and the hospital authorities should provide training from time to time. The patient's risk assessment form should be filled in accurately and in detail. Isaac Lee, HKIBC.
The Competition Commission is suing 2 cleaning service providers and their executives for price fixing. Man Shun in Hong Kong Commercial quoted a similar price when submitting tenders for projects in 17 public estates, which cost over $100 million in total. An industrial action launched by their employees in 2017 revealed that the 2 companies shared one office and had interconnected computer systems. The companies were accused of trying to hamper the investigation.
Someone who is a member of either Munshun or Hong Kong Commercial, they made attempts to delete shortcuts from the computer on their premises, which have links to another computer, which is owned to the server, which is owned by another company. And also, we have reasons to believe that they have tried to delete quite a large number of documents which we believe are relevant to our investigation.
And coming up after the break. Britain records its first Omicron death, while the mainland reports its second infection in 2 days.